Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and Warner Brothers takes it a step further with their DC Comics and their utter annihilation of our beloved characters, in this case Superman, having him debased and demoralized by some very visceral acts of aggression and violation. Now, I need to preface this a little bit, where this comic book that we're going to be discussing came out about 9-10 months ago in the first issue of Red, White, and Blue. I'll check that out in a second here. But it's kind of old news, but it's really just coming up now. People are just realizing that this happened, and it probably has something to do with the Jonathan Kent situation with him replacing Clark as the main universe Superman. And these events that we're going to be going over is what led to Jonathan having to do that. So people kind of, I think, look back on where Superman was, and that's kind of where all this came about. And as a writer myself, I'm from a writer's perspective, I'm okay that they thought about this, that they were willing to go to this dark place. I'm a very dark writer myself, and I have a lot of adult content and adult themes in my stories. I've had these types of violations. I have to jump around the words a little bit here on YouTube, but I've had characters violated in a similar way to Superman, and I feel like if it's done correctly and done maturely, it can add to the story and add to a character's development and their growth to see how they react to a situation like this. But with the other exterior factors, I do agree that this was a horrible, horrible, horrible decision that was done out of a politically motivated desire to destroy our beloved heroes. Not from a writer's, this would be an interesting way to go about it. So I've done stuff like this before, but I wasn't to a beloved superhero. Like, there's some characters that you shouldn't see in this particular type of light. Like, you don't want to see Luke Skywalker go through this. You don't want to see paragons of truth, justice, and the American way. You don't want to see paragons go through this type of torment and torture. It doesn't fit within their portrayal and their universe, and that's why this sucked. Like, if this happened to Batman, I'd be a little bit more okay with it, because he's definitely more the dark, grittier side of the universe, where stuff like this is more prevalent to happen. But it's enough of that. Let's actually get into the article here from Bounding into Comics. DC Comics implied Superman was sexually tortured. Scene described as commentary on how in America, when bad things happen to people who are traditionally marginalized, there's this feeling of let's just move on. I'm not sure what that quote is about. I hope they go into it, because I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. According to a 12 Years a Slave screenwriter turned comic book author John Ridley, his decision to pen a story for DC Comics in which Superman is implied to have been sexually tortured in one of his previous Silver Age adventures was made in order to provide commentary on his personal perception that the prevailing culture in this country is when bad things happen to people who are traditionally marginalized, there's this feeling of, okay, we get it, it was wrong, let's just move on. Is he saying that he did this to Superman because the apparent racist and sexist approach to America is if bad things happen to those marginalized people, we just tell them to move on, so he tortured Superman to see if we'd have the same response? I'm having a little bit difficulties thinking of the mindset behind this insane decision. Recently making the rounds on social media, Ridley's Untitled Tale features the first issue of recent Superman Red and Blue, and that's what I was worried about or forgetting earlier, anthology series, and serves as a continuation to a two-parter story originally published in the 1970s, World's Finest Volume 1, wherein the Man of Steel and the Dark Knight were held prisoner in a death camp run by the state Soviet dictator, Colonel Kozlov. So yeah, I was hearing a little bit about this. This is actually deliberate retconning as well. They're not just making their own story where this happened to them. They're going back to a comic book from the 1970s and changing the implications of the events that took place in World's Finest Volume 1. And that is just par for the course when it comes to modern entertainment. It's rewriting history is a very good way to inject your messaging into it. So I still can't believe they actually did this. The original story sees Superman captured by first staging a false train. Okay, it's just going into the behind the story of the original. And I don't think that is super relevant to what we're talking about today. Stumbled upon Batman, who revealed he came to the Soviet country the two are caught. Yep, and he's depowered. So yeah, it's just kind of sounds like a very interesting story that they had back in the day, where Superman's depowered with Batman and they have to break out of a prison camp. A very cool concept, but this current story is just going back and making that cool story so much worse. Yep, just more background. It is here that Ridley appears to put a darker, more violent spin on Superman's time in captivity. One neither seen nor hinted at in the original story, because it didn't happen in the original story. Crazy thought. One neither seen nor but rather only assumed as a possibility due to the real-world implications of the setting, as Clark turns to confront his own implied sexual torture at the hands of Koslov's men. His memory showing him restrained in a bent-over position and screaming out in pain from what the dialogue suggests to be some combination of both outright rape and penetration with foreign objects. Clark continues, but every day they would drag me into the interview room. Every day they would restrain me in a way that left me exposed and vulnerable, and then every day for 8 months they did things to me. Now again, I've written scenes like this, but it's in a world and with characters where that type of stuff makes sense in the context and the character development, and none of my characters are paragons per se of truth, justice, and just overall goodness. You don't want to see something like this done to Superman, and it's very clearly, as he mentioned earlier, the writer, very politically motivated to show what it's like for marginalized people, which I think is really weird that he connected those two. But besides that, super politically motivated to debase a prominently white character with strong morals. And it's just vicious, and just vile in the way that they approached it and the way that they felt they needed to do this. And he was forced to look him in the eye. Yeah, this is the panel that they're talking about. And that is not a Superman comic. This shows an innate misunderstanding of the importance of Superman and the type of character that he is and the place he holds in his world. His comics are supposed to be relatively hopeful, at least in his depiction. Maybe the world's not hopeful, but he's near always a beacon of hope, of inspiration. And you can't show him in this light and still expect him to be that paragon. All right, I can't read anymore. I got the gist of it. It's just rewriting history, another example of rewriting history for political motivation to tear down our beloved heroes. And it's not that Superman's white. That has nothing to do with why people loved him. It's not because he's a man, but that's what they think it is. So they have to destroy him to replace him with other, more woke characters. And what better way to have the audience not see him in that positive light anymore than to metaphorically and now literally bend him over. It's just such a depiction of innate hatred to everything that they profess to love and everything that defeating their own political motivations as well, hurting their cause more than helping it. And it's just another prime example of that. But that's all I have for today. So if you'd please like, share, and subscribe, I will see you on the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.